Good evening. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Gary.
Here.
Pepcorn.
Here.
Preston. Strand.
Here.
Mahoney.
Hi. Here. Fire had a big week. Our Chief Steve Dirksen has presented letters of commendation for Captain Dan Johnson and firefighters Mike Niels and Brent Shapaisky for exemplary service provided as a citizen of Fargo who had fallen through the ice on the Red River near Dyke East on December 4th. The male had been in the water for 6 minutes from the time of the 911 call to the arrival of Truck 1 at the scene. Upon arrival, Niels quickly approached the male in the river who was becoming hypothermic and fatigued. He entered the water, secured the male, and then Johnson and Kapelski, with the assistance of bystanders, pulled both to safety. This rescue was completed within 2 minutes of arrival on scene. These fire department personnel are recognized because of their individual and team demonstration of the department's core values of professionalism, responsibility, integrity, dependability, and empathy, and they demonstrated their sworn duty to protect lives to the best of their ability. Now, Chief, if you had a tug of war between the police and the fire, who would win?
We've demonstrated we can beat them consistently.
I realize it's hard to pull two bodies out of the water. That's nice the bystanders helped as well. Library. The Winter Storytime series for kids is back in person sessions, and there will be an author visit and creative writing workshop with Jessie Vender at the main library on January 30th at 2 p.m. who will share her first children's book, Prairie Princess, and conduct a writing workshop. And an online winter reading program runs through March 6th where participants can read to earn prizes. Planning. The Greater Fargo Moorhead Economic Development Corporation is ready to begin marketing document-ready sites, sometimes referred to as certified or shovel-ready sites in the metro area. The EDC has been working with Fargo and multiple partners over the last 2 years to build a program and qualify sites as document-ready, which has a significant amount of pre-work, identification, location of utilities, technical reporting on the properties is complete. These programs take a significant effort, but once complete, have well understood and well-documented sites to provide economic developer and a site owner to ready-go product that is presenting to expanding local communities and outside companies. Recently, we've had an uptick of a lot of outside companies that are coming in towns looking for sites to set up. So we do have a 111-acre site at 37th Street and 52nd Avenue North, which is ready to go. This morning, the Fargo Police Department held a swearing-in and promotion ceremony welcoming 5 new officers and 6 civilian team members to the department. The new officers include Marcus, Kelsey, Tyler, Morgan, Ezra, and the new support staff specialists are Victoria, Kristen, and Kelsey, and Shannon, Khalib, and Jamie are the newest members of the crime analyst team. Officer Jacob Mose was promoted to sergeant, and the city is incredibly honored to such a dedicated and committed individual growing his career within the city. Sergeant Mose has been with the department for several years and recognized for his skills and experiences as well as potential to lead. Once again, congratulations to all. I know this will make the community proud. We have 2 videos tonight. The first showcases the thought and symbolism behind the city's 150th anniversary logo, and the second showcases the newest fire engine with Chief Dirksen's arsenal. City of Fargo has been around 150 years. When we first started, we felt like a little small town. It was the big town in North Dakota, but it was kind of a feeling of a small town. We now evolved into a metro. We have a lot of diversity, we have a lot of changes, we have a lot of different businesses and dynamics that we never had before. And long term, we want to be a resilient city that's sustainable. How do you sustain your community that you still have the things people want or desire in a community and will want to live, play, work, go to school here, and do the things that you enjoy in the community.
I wanted to have it have meaning. I wanted every piece of the logo to mean something. So I went back and I looked at the history of where Fargo began so that I could tell that story through a logo. And because this logo commemorates Fargo's 150th year of existence, every element within the design is filled with meaning. We felt it was important to include the shape of North Dakota to represent the great state that Fargo is a part of. The shape of the 5 of the 150 was also very intentional. It subtly includes the shape of a water tower as the symbol of Fargo's status as the regional supplier of water. The forward-leaning lines on the top of the 5 represent how Fargo is always thinking forward. The star represents Fargo as the brightest star in the upper Midwest, and Fargo's ability to continue leading the region. The curvature around the 5 and 0 is inspired by the Red River, an ever-present facet of life in Fargo. Just as the Red River continually flows, the members of Team Fargo are working for you always. The railroad transitioning into a modern highway serves as a nod to Fargo's past and present. The 5 ties of the railroad represent Fargo and its metro partnerships with the 4 neighboring cities, and the road on the right-hand side indicates Fargo's ability to continue planning and improving. Finally, each stripe represents one of the themes from Fargo's 2022 State of the City. The whole process about how the logo came to be, working with the team to develop it, it really meant a lot. I feel like being able to tell the story of the city of Fargo and 150 years it's an honor.
So we just got the brand new one. It's a 100-foot aerial truck. They're on a 10-year cycle, so we'll use an aerial apparatus for 10 years. You know, there's a lot of wear and tear that goes into a fire apparatus. It's a 10-year cycle where we'll have a truck for 10 years, then we'll order a new one. And that truck that we're replacing will be our reserve apparatus for another 10 years. So we don't go through a lot of them, but to be on the safe side, we want to make sure that we're replacing them in a timely fashion. Well, this new truck has cameras on the side, on the front, so a driver's got a screen, but he's able to look at that screen and see what's in that blind spot. And this is all to minimize preventable accidents. One of the interesting things it has is up on the bucket, it has a thermal imager camera. So when we're up looking at a fire from above, we can use that camera to take a look and see where are the hot spots. That's a real benefit to this new technology. We replaced this one early because of that Volkswagen settlement. The price of this unit was $1.25 million, and Volkswagen paid half of that. So it saved the taxpayer, close to right around $600,000. It's a good truck. We're looking forward to using it and using it at its fullest for the next 10 years.
Very good. And what, Chief, that's $1 million truck?
1.2.
1.2? Ooh. Is there a motion to move the order of agenda? We're going to add a COVID update. Commissioner Strand had asked at the end from Desi, just the news on that. Otherwise, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. So motion to approve the minutes of the January 10th, 2022 regular meeting.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 34?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Strand, Preston. Roll call vote, please.
Strand.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Regular agenda, we have the resident comments at this time. In person, we have Will Thompson first.
Thank you all. Will Thompson, he, him, and candidate for the Fargo City Commission. The back the blue rhetoric has been so turned on its head by reactionary forces in the media and on the city commission that you have somebody like me who has been vocal in a deep skepticism of mass incarceration, the war on drugs, the austerity politics that fuel them. I go on the radio and I say I stand behind Chief Zabolski, and his explanations, his very detailed explanations, I might add, on the staffing issues. I say he's a consummate veteran. He's proven himself a reformer and open-minded. He's instituted body cameras. To me, that earns him a little bit of trust. So why is it that I've spent the last week after that interview having to answer questions why I don't support the police? I was surprised that this moral panic had been ginned up to the point that Commissioner Pepcorn followed me on the radio and called for the resignation of the chief. But it seems that calmer heads have prevailed, and Commissioner Garrigg's improvement plan is the more favored approach now. But I'm wary of the reactionaries. They say that we love our police, but how does their record of late look? Are they backing the blue? The chief said that the FPD supports a civilian oversight advisory board, and the reactionaries thought that they knew better than the police chief on that matter. Perhaps they'd like to become cops if they'd like to dictate what they do so much. The chief asked the city not to burden the understaffed FPD with a handful of requests to bow hunt in the parks, and Commissioner Garrigg responded by engaging the chief in a battle of linguistics publicly. And of course, Commissioner Garrigg also voted against one-time bonuses to all city employees, not just the police, and yet he's perplexed as to why people are leaving for better pay in bigger cities, closer to family. I agree with Commissioner John Strand, who said it best, I think, on Tuesday. I'll paraphrase him here. We shouldn't throw our city leaders under the bus when solutions have already been identified and implemented. There are 30 recruits ready to be trained, but that takes time, and I hope that an improvement plan will take that into consideration, because you can't change how much time it's going to take to train people. And nobody wants untrained cowboys and renegades patrolling the city. And to the people of Fargo, I advise you to see through the rhetoric. Rhetoric is cheap. If the reactionaries will not accept a police reform chief, you have to ask yourself, what kind of chief is it that they would like to see instead? Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I have a question. So obviously this is a political candidate. And so are we going to offer equal time then to all the other political candidates? I guess that's the question that we should probably answer going forward.
Yeah, that's a very good discussion, Commissioner Pepcorn, because we're going to have maybe 6 to 8 commissioner candidates and 4 or 5 mayor candidates, so it could be kind of windy at night. So I do think the commission probably has to address it at some time at what we do when actually the election cycle starts April 11th. So, Brandon Krieger, I'm sorry.
Hey, good afternoon or good evening. Happy New Year too. It's been a while. So I'm here to talk about the Fargo Police Department. Obviously, last week was quite the roller coaster. The week before that. So how do you build public trust? This has been a question that lacks a perfect answer. My answer, as far as my experience, has gone is transparency and character. We are presented with a problem with the Fargo Police Department. From the original article looking to exit interviews, to Chief Zibolowski's presentation last week, to the anonymous email sent to city commissioners Tuesday, followed by the denial of the incident that was referred to in the email. From the scope as a citizen and access to what information I have, I've researched and interviewed members of our community trying to get a whole picture in regards to the situation and the character of our police chief. So in Billett, Wisconsin, they spoke of his time there as how he modernized policing, reduced crime rates, and increased outreach with the community, dealing with Black Lives Matter and promoting SRO and their effectiveness. As far as the interview process, Commissioner Dave Pepcorn, who was on the selection panel, said if he had one word to describe...
So once again, Mr. Chair, isn't one of the things you're not supposed to bring up persons?
Actually, I'm not the only one who's done it. Westfield May does it quite often, so I like to have my time now, or I add time to me finishing my speech. Thank you. They spoke of this time, and this is actually from an article, I'm not coming at you, it's from an article posted in Inform. Who was on the selection panel, said he had one word to describe the new police chief, and that would be thorough. He'll be an excellent addition to the city, he added. The panel agreed in grading the 3 finalists the last Thursday when the article was published, that Zabolowski got a 93% score out of 100%. The other candidates got 70% and 65%. Now, the article released last week talks about several issues with the Fargo Police Department, exit interviews, talking about toxic environments, and now 5 former employees out of Billett, Wisconsin, came out on Ballot News stating issues with the chief. We also have Commissioner Pepcorn pulling a 360, demanding his first termination, and Commissioner Garrigg asking for goals being created and implemented to see if the chief can reach those goals. Lastly, we see Mayor Mahoney asking for an outsourced investigation into the exit interviews, morale, and mental health. From my perspective, and many others like myself, We have felt safe in Fargo with Chief Doboliski's time here. I do not know the validity of these reports or why during the hiring process these issues were not uncovered. I don't know what goes on in the Fargo Police Department or at City Hall, but this is how political division is formed and utilized to skew public opinion. Again, this comes to my first question. Who can the Fargo residents trust? The chief, the commission, the reporters, the ex-police officers, or the mayor? Please figure it out. Thank you.
Wes, up next. I'll let you pronounce your last name since I seem to get it wrong. Just a 10th item on this thing, as we see here, is when speaking, be sure to address the issue, not the person. So if kindly we could try to do that a little bit more. I do know there's different statements been made by people, but if we can keep to the issue, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Wes Philome, he, him, his pronouns. I'd like to start by saying long live George Floyd and Anue Maciek. During the commission meeting in 2020 when Chief Zabolski was hired, I spoke directly to you all in detail about the history of the Fargo Police Department. I shared how 70 plus cops conspired against the former Chief Turnus and had him ousted for holding them accountable. I spoke about how disgraced Chief David Todd took over and pampered the entire department. I then advised you all that if our new chief tried to fix our broken department by himself, those same cops would do the same thing they did to Chief Turnus. Less than 2 years into his tenure and on the heels of passing the Oversight Committee, we are now on the verge of ousting our last 2 out of our last 3 police chiefs. Before the facts could even be gathered, our deputy mayor was in the media undermining due process and calling for his termination. Instead of saying we should wait for the facts, Mayor, you also shared a rushed opinion on the matter. But when the second highest ranking police official in our city decided to dress in plain clothes, consume alcohol, and help incite a riot while funneling information to the disgraced chief, I don't recall Deputy Mayor Pepcorn screaming for accountability, nor do I recall Commissioner Garrick wanting to put together a plan of action. I do recall our mayor going on a citywide tour with said chief in full support, but less than 2 years into the job, you all are calling for our current chief's dismissal over an anonymous email. Do you all know what happens when police departments are unstable and have no accountability? Situations like George Floyd and so many others. A few months ago, I sat down with our mayor and Commissioner Preston. I shared direct information with you all about Fargo PD and reiterated my call for Chief Zabolski to get assistance. Clearly, nothing has come of it. Chief, I told you directly that this would happen. Ego has placed you here, but no one is above redemption. If you don't live for times where you have to wake up a little earlier and lace your boots a little tighter because the margin of error going into the day is slim, then who are you as a leader? To all the members of law enforcement in Fargo PD who think they can continue to shirk accountability, your time is coming. This I promise you. Thank you.
Ask Yeska. And ask Yeska. Christopher Cohn.
Well, Christopher Cohn, Fargo resident. So I agree with Wes regarding talking about the chief we had 2 chiefs ago. And it was my understanding at that time that it was the rank and file that decided to oust him, and they succeeded. And I don't think they have that power. And I don't know what's happening this time, but if this is happening again, the point is that the power of deciding who the chief is, and if he stays, is with the elected officials on this body. It's not with the rank and file. Thanks.
We'll now go to our regular 36th item. Public input opportunity, application for a Class F alcoholic license for BCP Fargo, Boss's Pizza and Chicken to be located at 228 Broadway North. Continue from regular meeting. Steve Sprague to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This was delayed because of the background check on the person that was initially listed as the assistant manager and a part owner. Subsequent to that, the owner identified another person that would be a manager and then removed the initial person's ownership from that. He increased her ownership up in the Grand Forks store in order to kind of give her a little more buy-in to the company. And he also made her the district manager, so she will have overall oversight over Fargo and Grand Forks. In the packet that you got, I had 3 different motions because the agenda deadline was before the Liquor Control Board actually had a chance to meet. At the Liquor Control Board meeting, it was a 4-1 vote to approve the issuance of the Class F license to Boss's Pizza. The one dissenting vote was primarily because she didn't want to see any more full alcohol in the downtown area.
Oh, that's North Fargo, right?
Pardon me?
This is North Fargo, isn't it?
This is in downtown Fargo. It's in the White Banner building.
White banner.
Oh, okay. Is there any president who wishes to speak to this license transfer? Is there anyone who wants to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
There's 3 items, Dave. You want 1, 2, or 3?
Is the top one the regular approval?
It's actually the third motion or the third recommendation would be the one.
I'll move to the third motion.
Was there a second? Second. Gary, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Commissioner Preston?
So I'm going to echo the one dissenting vote on the Liquor Control Board. Where and when do we start to address the density issue? Has there been some discussion on the Liquor Control Board about that?
There hasn't been formal discussion as to the density. We did have a presentation from Fargo Cass Public Health regarding density, but it was an old study. It probably needs to be updated.
So I would highly encourage the Liquor Control Board to look at this issue. I don't have so much trouble with this particular application because it is a 50-50, or what is it, 50% food?
A minimum of 50% food.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it sounds to me like it's going to operate more like a restaurant with alcohol on the side. But at some point, we have to look at density downtown. We have some problems.
Yes, ma'am. It's important to note that there is no physical bar in this with the Class F license.
Yeah.
So it will feel like a restaurant, not like a bar.
Mr. Gary?
I think we have to be pretty careful about denying licenses because we feel there's too many bars in an area. This commission has approved licenses just for downtown. On the books today, we have licenses that can only be used downtown to include full bar licenses, like what you'd consider to be an actual bar. We have licenses on the book today that are only for downtown. So if we want to have a discussion about having too many bars in the city of Fargo or downtown or whatever, I've been asking for that discussion for a very long time. But to deny licenses based on a feeling that we have, I don't think is prudent. And the first step would be to stop incentivizing bars in the area. If we want to say there's too many, we need to stop incentivizing first.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Mr. Preston?
So this isn't related directly to this application, but there's certainly research that shows that there are some issues that are created, public safety issues from too many bars close together. I'm not saying we would deny any licenses at this point, but it needs to be studied. That's all I'm saying.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to just make a comment about the initial application. There was some focus on a manager who had had some problems with the law in the past, and all that said and done, I think as a community, we need to more often than not celebrate rehabilitation and people who turn their lives around and get back on their feet. If that isn't what we're all about, I don't know what we're about. But so let's not be so close-minded and so harshly judge people who've had moments in time where they just make a bad judgment and it maybe affects their world from then on. We're all there. So this was a great read. I just think this is exactly what life should be about when somebody's had problems and run into drugs and alcohol and arrest issues. Turn your life around, get back on your feet and stand up strong and proud. and show us how to do it. This was their best employee they've had in 17 years. And we're deciding that's not adequate.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Gary?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item B, Ola addition. Approval recommended by Planning Commission on 1/4/22, a zoning change from general commercial with a planned unit development overlay to a general commercial with amended planned unit development. First reading of the rezone ordinance. Megan and Ishog to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. This is a zoning map amendment, which would change the property from GC General Commercial with a PUD overlay to an amended GC zoning district with an amended PUD overlay. This development is located at 4410 through 4474 24th Avenue South and 4417 and 4477 26th Avenue South. So here it's just adjacent to 45th Street, just south of 23rd Avenue. This is the west side of the Anderson Softball Complex. Blake Nybakken with Epic Companies is here, should you have any questions. There are a couple of images that show the site, though there's a little bit of snow on the ground, a little bit more snow on the ground than when these images were taken. Back in May of 2021, the City Commission approved this planned unit development, which is a multi-building mixed-use development with park space in the middle. We can see this label here. What the application is in front of you today for the zoning amendment would increase the height of the overall development from 85 feet to 130 feet, as well as to remove a requirement to vary the height of a parapet on a facade that is longer than 150 feet. So the applicant would like to provide some greater flexibility within the development, and he is here if you should have any questions for him. We have not received any inquiries on the application, and the Planning Commission recommended approval on January 4th of 2022. Criteria is met. The recommendation is on your screen. That concludes staff's presentation. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Didn't they already start construction on this, or is this an amendment to their plan from before?
They have started construction on a foundation permit. They would be only allowed to build within the existing PUD overlay, which would be 85 feet. So should the commission not approve this, they would have to construct within 85 feet. They have started construction on the two buildings. If you can see my pointer here, one of them is 85 feet or is within that. One, I believe, is just a foot or two above that. So they're right at the threshold. If this does not get approved, they would have to build under 85 feet, and the applicant is aware of that.
Is there anyone present who wants to speak to this rezoning? And anyone wanting to speak? If not, I close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded, Preston and Strand. Any discussion?
And Gary.
I'm sorry, Gary, sorry. Mr. Strand.
Bear with me, Mayor, but we are still missing seats on our planning commission, and do we have to wait for the legislature? Remind me. There are vacancies, aren't there, on our planning commission?
I believe there are 8 seated members of the 11, so there are several vacancies, but with the board and the seated members, I believe that the seated members are what would need the vote for the recommendation of approval.
And it's not that, it's that we somehow have to get this commission filled or change the criteria for its membership.
Nicole came up. She knows the answer, I guess.
Well, I guess we have been working closely with Cass County. So the 3 vacancies are the ET representation by the set by the Century Code. We've sent out postcards. We've sent out outreach. The Cass County administration has sent out outreach, and it's a hard position to fill.
Does it?
And partly it's because the residences aren't there in the ET any longer that used to be.
Bear with me. Is it because it's legislative, statutorily required?
Yep.
Then we need to wait to the legislature and get them to address
Correct,
it.
and we don't even appoint them. The Cass County Commission does.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe we could look at legislative fix of that sometime, so we get somebody to do that for us. John, would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston?
Aye.
Gary?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. 37, a second reading and final adoption of ordinance relating to ordinances procedure. Is there a motion to waive the second reading at length of the ordinance enacting section 1-0210 of the Article 1-02 of the Chapter 1 of the Fargo Municipal Code relating to ordinances? Is there a motion?
So move what you just said.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston.
Aye.
Gary.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Recommendation to direct the city attorney to rewrite section 1809 excavation code. We have a different speaker.
Excuse me, can I jump in real quick? So there's two required motions for this one. I think Ty was going to put it up onto the screen, but the first is to waive the second reading. The second is for final passage and adoption. The second motion should be, I move for final passage and adoption of an ordinance enacting section 1-0210 of Article 102 of Chapter 1 of the Fargo Municipal Code relating to ordinances procedures.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Gary, second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston.
Aye.
Gary.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Do we have enough motions to motions now? Okay, thank you. Yes. Now we'll go on.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Kevin Gorder with the Department of Engineering. I got a real short presentation here to talk about a rewrite to the excavation code. We have been looking at it for a while to get a quick rewrite on it, but it's basically been unchanged since 1990. There's some minor revisions. The last one was just a simple remove performance deposits, increase bond amount. In this process, we've been looking at other cities to see what they might be doing to meet some of our goals, and I'll get to the goals here on the next slide. But the other thing we have done already is met with the utilities and excavators for their comments to kind of feel how they feel about where we're going with this potential rewrite. The things that we would like to really accomplish are some methods to get better street and sidewalk patches. We had 398 plumber cuts in our streets this last year, and we just want to make sure we're getting the best patch that we can, something that we have to maintain into, well, forever after that. So we want to make the best patch we can get. We'd like to get improved traffic control for the safety of the public and for the workers. Public expectations, things like notice to the affected users, notice to affected businesses, notice to the general public, and try to come up with a method to minimize durations. One way, maybe a different fee structure. So we prioritize the fee to days on the roadway. We need to incorporate new tree requirements that we have in engineering, working with the forestry department, and just kind of work that stuff into this, the guidelines that we would like to ask for. And then maybe a method to talk about how to deal with our new streets. And when I say a new street, maybe something that's less than 10 years old, to have better control of the patch, better control of the inspection, better control. We've invested a lot of money in a brand new street. Can we make this, let's really step that up to make sure that street's gonna last as long as it needs to. And then impacts on the arterials and collectors, our busy roadways. Is there a traffic impact fee or something like that for the utilities that are out there blocking traffic, things like that. Again, to encourage them to plan the work, do it in a timely manner, get their work done, and get off the road. And then trying to do all of this while we're trying to be sensitive to cost impacts to the residents. So trying to find a place to walk here as to rewrite this and get a different look to it. So that's basically what I have for you from the staff side. We'll be back with some more information when we get to it, but if you have any questions or comments, we're willing to take that now or whenever.
So Kevin, that you're basically asking is to draft with the attorney a new ordinance,
Correct.
basically, is what you're gonna do.
Yep.
So you're just asking the commission for permission to have the attorney drafted, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Commissioner Gary.
I had myself and two of my neighbors had breaks at the main this year, so I understand this very well, and it is very expensive. When you talk about being sensitive to the taxpayers, do we have an idea what the impact would be to the regular homeowner who would have a break at the main that's $25,000 currently or somewhere around that?
Yeah, so now you're starting to talk about the actual cost of the repair versus our fees and our excavation stuff. We have a group that we're trying to get together here right now to talk about how can we look at this to see if it's the way to do it cheaper? Is there a way to do it better? Is there ways to do that? The struggle is it's just really expensive to dig a hole. We've looked at some of the quotes that we've reviewed and through Steve Sprague in the auditor's office and comparing it to some of like our water main lowering projects that we're going to do water service lowering project. The bid prices are pretty close and you start adding the quantities and the depth, we can kind of get there. So we don't know if it's really a function of, is there a way to do it cheaper? Because that's kind of what we're getting for bid prices too, but it's something we are looking at to try to see if there's a way to be cheaper.
So when you come back, and I have no problem with looking into this, try to address that with us. You know, if Laney's gets charged an extra $300 or whatever to do their job, they're not just to eat that. They're going to pass it on to the taxpayer or the customer in this situation.
No, that's absolutely correct. It's just a pass-through cost, right? I mean, if we charge $300, it's going right to the resident. So no, we understand that and trying to figure out how to manage this and still be able to get, you know, our goals accomplished as well. So yeah, we're very sensitive to that.
Yeah, so if you can talk to those guys and see what it might cost extra and just address that specifically when you come back, that's what I'll ask for. Thank you.
Mr. Strand.
Thank you. It occurs to me that some of these incidents have opportunities for like special assessments or special assistance in financing from the city. It'd be nice if, as we do this, to connect them so people know this is qualified, this is how you do it, that's how you get this funding, this is what you can or can't. It's just a quagmire to people who don't know how to navigate the system, and then all of a sudden they have a frozen water or a crisis.
Correct.
So as we're doing it, the easier we can make it user-friendly so they know proactively, these are the supports you get to do this. Don't stress, but get it done.
Correct, and that is a parallel path that we're working on right now. We're gonna, you know, I don't know if we'll connect the two, but we can certainly bring them kind of, you know, on a parallel path. One thing that we would like to see is somehow to encourage multiple quotes to see if there's a better way to get ideas for our residents to look for multiple quotes, and how do we accomplish that?
Commissioner Preston.
So currently, when it's either an emergency situation or somebody is updating their lines going into their homes, I'm assuming.
Correct, yep.
So they get a permit from you, I'm assuming?
Correct.
So right now, the ordinance does not allow you to dictate to the excavator? Is that what I'm hearing here?
It's really a struggle. Our permit, you know, it's that or else, right? You know, we could say this or else. So right now we charge fees based on how big the hole is. But if we were to say, if you're out there for more than 3 weeks, we're going to start charging you an additional fee to focus their resources on getting that patch or that repair completed.
Okay. So you're talking permitting fees? Is that what you're talking?
It could be. I mean, there's a lot of things we can look at, but it seems like money is the thing that tends to work. If you look at a construction project, I didn't mention that much, but we could try to tie it to our specifications as well. But if you look at a construction project, they get a time frame to do the project, and after that, there's liquidated damages for not focusing the work and getting it done as fast as we can. So maybe that's a path we can go down to see if that's something that would work.
Do you have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Strand, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 39, an update in the audit of the Municipal Airport Authority. Commissioner Pipcorn, this is yours.
Thank you. I would just for all of us for information, so thank you, Kent, for doing that.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. In late October, October 28th to be exact, the Finance Committee met and had a discussion about the memorandum of understanding with the Airport Authority and the move towards more independence in that regard. And so in the past, the Airport Authority has had a full audit procedure, much like the Department of the City. And as they transition to a more independent status, that process will continue for this year. And then next fiscal year, they'll have their own independent audits. So they'll be audited separately from the City of Fargo. As an interim step this year, the Finance Committee recommended and hired Ide Bailey to do about 10 agreed upon procedures. That's the technical term for the work that they're doing, pointing towards the management practices of the Airport Authority, their policies, their operating criteria, and a little more deeper dive into an independent look of how they operate. So that was the goal of this engagement, and we did receive the draft report today, actually, and we intend to bring that to the Finance Committee. Since it was sourced and started at the Finance Committee, we thought we would get it to them for further discussion and try to have closure on any issues that might be significant as deemed by the Finance Committee.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. That's great timing, because I literally asked this for Kemmer to put it on the agenda last Tuesday or Wednesday, so I did not know that was the case. So thank you for the update, Kent. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kent. Item 40, updated police department personnel. This is Commissioner Pepcorn.
Yeah, just real quick, obviously, we had an update from the chief and all the information, but I just wanted to relay some of the things I found. And after that, I've had pretty much nonstop contact from current officers and former officers emailing me and calling me on the phone. And I just wanted to give you a couple of things that I found. This is from Human Resources. Out of 190 employees in the police department, 45 have left during the chief's tenure. And so it's almost 25%. So I just wanted you to know that. We were told it isn't 3, it isn't 15, it wasn't 25, it's 45. 45 of 190 employees. And so that's a big number. And obviously we weren't aware last when we met, then he said it was 25, I believe. And so to me, that's a very serious thing. Just a couple of things I want to talk about. I believe what he's brought in is a toxic culture. From talking to the officers, current and former, that's what I'm hearing. And obviously we already know this, that we're unable to fill the shift. And if you're unable to fill the shift as a citizen, do you think you're more safe or less safe? That's the question you have to ask. And then the other one that I've heard from multiple people now is that officers are being sent out on situations to get, like an example is a domestic. You should always send out 2 officers, but we're sending out 1 officer. And so do you think that officer is less safe or more safe? And I just want to go on the record. I don't know what's going to happen. I believe Commissioner Gary is going to make a proposal. I just want to go on the record. I believe this is grounds for immediate dismissal. And if one officer sent by himself is injured, that's on us, and that's on the chief, and that's on all the police leadership. And so I haven't slept well because I'm very worried about that. If we're sending out officers by themselves because we're understaffed to high-risk situations, that's unacceptable. And that's grounds for immediate dismissal. All right, that's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Chief, do you want to respond to that, please?
Sure. The HR report also shows in the same time frame that 45, that's civilian and sworn total. Left the department, 33 total were hired. That's a difference of 12. As you earlier reported, we did swear in 5 new officers today. That brings our sworn vacancies to 20, 10.5% vacancy rate. We hired 6 new civilians, so our intelligence and analysis unit and our records unit are now fully staffed for the first time in quite some time. 20, and also on the vacancies of 20, that includes 3 new positions that were authorized by the commission in 2022. We have 8 officers in training who will complete their training and add to our staffing within the next week. The remaining 3 will add to our staffing within the next month. And the 5 that are hired today should be completing their training by July 1st and add to our staffing. Our department team, Captain Helmick and Assistant Chief Stefanowicz, have been working diligently with all of our officers to review staffing plans to ensure that we have adequate coverage for any gaps that might exist to get us through the rest of the year. We've also got some other ideas in terms of retention. I am equally concerned about the safety of our officers and our community, but our community is safe and our officers are being taken care of. And they are getting together and they are helping each other out, which is extraordinary. But if there is a specific issue, Commissioner, that you would like to bring to my attention, I most certainly will look into that. But it's hard to respond without the specifics. But I
Chief, can you just respond to the one question? Do we ever send an officer out on a priority 1 alone?
You're always going to send 2. If there's not another officer available, that officer would wait for a backup. Or if it was a significant situation, as we've done in the past, call for mutual aid. So there are certainly options. In addition, we have sergeants, and our sergeants have been also stepping up and helping with calls if need be. So similarly to a situation where you could walk into something right in front of you and be all by yourself, that there are situations that are out of our control.
Any other discussion? Mr.
Chairman.
Preston?
If I could say, I have been quite disturbed, actually, Commissioner Pepcorn, by the public calls for termination. None of us up here should be doing that. If there is cause for termination, it needs to be going through the right channels, the right process. I am not saying that this is even an appropriate place for termination, but if that was the case, this is not the way to do it. I also think the decorum that we set up here, when we call for a department head to be fired, it sends a message to the entire city staff that creates a culture of fear, insecurity, whatever. I see that as being unprofessional and actually to the point of almost negligent. So I just want to communicate my distress with the way things have been handled this past week.
Commissioner Pepcorn?
Mr. Chair, I will gladly stand by my comments. And I would say what we usually do with an officer now is you put him on suspension and review what's going on. And so you have him turn in his badge and his gun, and you have a thorough review. And so at the very least, that's what we should do.
Any other discussion? Moving on to item 40.
Mr. Chair, no, I'd like to go ahead and make that motion. I would make the motion that we have these issues reviewed by an outside investigator, obviously not somebody in the force, and in the meantime, that he be suspended until the investigation is completed. Thank you. I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Mayor?
No clapping, please.
Awesome.
Commissioner Strand?
Mayor Mahoney, I would, these are challenging times for all of us, and Chief Zabolski, I wish you the best in our community as we all work to get up to a better tomorrow. It's on all of us. You're not alone in this. We're partners with you. Hindsight's so great, to look back and go, we should have, we could have, would have. The reality is, it isn't so much whether we made the right decision or the wrong decision. The onus is on us now to make the decision right. And that's what we get to do. What I would like to do is learn more. I know this is the mayor's portfolio, but a recommendation, a suggestion from just one commissioner, and I know there's opportunities but for us to do things and connect and do ride-alongs and learn, but I would like to have a setup where we can have a space where I can go and talk to people, and in a safe, confidential space where I can learn from them, I can understand their situation, they can have a trust for us, and I can at least say what's going on, how can we help, what are your needs, what are your frustrations, what are the opportunities. I think that would be a valuable step. So if through HR or however we could work this, even if I'm the only commissioner that does it, if we could create a space where I could somehow learn from your department people and learn how they operate and learn their sense of their world, because it is their world, I'd welcome that. I think it would really be good for me to have a better sense of their realities too. And again, Chief, I wouldn't have invited you or welcomed or joined bringing you to Fargo to send you out with the door hitting you on the backside. This is on all of us. If this is, and the world's a different time, I couldn't imagine wanting to be in law enforcement these days. It takes really special people to do that. And we need those terrific special people that their hearts are in it, but we can't take their heart out of their career. And we can't have folks coming into a situation be like, I don't know if I ever want to go to Fargo because he'll last a year and a half. We need to be careful. And yet we need to be responsible. And it's on us to learn what your needs are to better fulfill our agreed upon goals, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if I may, just so you're aware, we have partnered with HR on a similar venture, so I'm sure if you speak with them, maybe they can integrate you into that effort, but we're happy to share what or whatever information the commission is interested in about the department.
Commissioner Strand, you haven't been around as part of the discussion last week, and one of the reasons we wanted outside body to come in is you may go and do an interview, I may go to an interview, we might have different objective findings. If we work with our HR department and had objective findings and facts that fit the picture, that's what we need to do. It's a time to end rumors and anonymous letters. It's time to get the facts. Not only with performance improvement plan for the chief, but there's also performance improvement for the department. It's one of our departments. We truly want good morale. We truly want our officers treated well. Officer safety involves extremely important. It's something that is part of this action, communication, new command staff. There's a variety of improvement items that are going to be on the docket for this time. And in this next motion that's coming out, Commissioner Garrick will explain, we're going to head for certain dynamics that we think we need to have. And no different than any of us when we've had an employee that didn't fully know their expectations. We're going to lay out the expectations and what we expect. And we expect that in Commissioner Garrick's outline of what we do, we will get reports and we'll have those things. But surely as a commissioner, if you want to work with HR and get into some of those conversations, you're welcome to do that. And I've been doing that for the last week, and I've got a lot of different conversations I've had. There's no question any department we can improve. And there's no question this is the most watched department there is right now with all the things going on in the world. But now is the time to hunker down. And Wes, as you say, we can make a better department, and that's what we need to work and focus on, because this is a great city and we need people safe, and that's why people come to our community, and we need not rumors managed, but facts managed. So Commissioner Garrick, I'll let you go to your motion.
Yeah, I think you laid it out. And I just want to point out that in my mind, the performance improvement contract is for the chief, and then by extension for the department, because it's impossible to separate the two, right? If we're going to look at the chief and his performance, it's based on how the department is doing. So I want the rank and file police officers to know that from me, that that's my intent with this. So you laid out what we're doing. What you're voting on today is a framework. I asked the city administration to put together that framework, and what's going to come in the weeks to follow is what Mayor just said, give exact metrics, measurable things that we can point to and look at and see if we are in fact improving our department, if we are improving our leadership. So I will make the motion to accept the performance improvement contract and move forward with that plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ty, can you get this up, please? Okay. So we had a discussion, all of us had a lot of discussion last week, but we did have a discussion and came forth with a suggested motion. I think there are some items there we saw as well, and when Ty gets it up here, you can see it. But it had to do with other areas that we wanted looked at. Shift schedule examination, to look at the shift schedule and see how it impacts. It's a question whether a 10-hour shift was the best way to go and what we need to do. Chris Hymick was staffing challenge strategies. What type of staffing strategies should we do going forward? Department analysis and evaluation, and that's the one where our outside group comes in and works with our HR department. Mental and physical health initiatives. Now, this is a great deal because we're finally looking in and addressing many of the mental health issues. And firemen and policemen do have a higher risk of cardiac disease because of the strain they put on their heart when they do things. There's an ultrasound that you can do on the heart, see if there's calcium deposits, recognize they're at high risk, and get them in for a thorough cardiac workup. We've had a couple of young men die recently with cardiac events that we would hate to have happen. And lastly, community involvement efforts is what are we doing in the community, how are we getting involved? Part of it has to do with media interaction to make sure the media gets the information it needs to get and that we have a more open department as far as public relations goes. So I guess we'll send these out to the commissioners later, but that was part of Tony's plan as well. So it's not only the chief, it's also going to be elements of the department as well. Any other discussion? Commissioner Preston.
So Chief, can you comment on how this fits in? I know you were embarking on a process for strategic planning for the department. Does this fit pretty well?
Well, I think it certainly fits in with that analysis, yeah. So that'll help us prioritize goals and objectives for the year, and then obviously we want to look 3 to 5 years as well. But certainly these will be the priority items. So I think that melds very well with what we started.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say, this whole process, this whole approach looks like it would be something good for every department to go through.
Thank
to be
you.
honest with you.
Commissioner Pepcorn.
I just want to know, is there a way that this is going to be kept confidential? Because the people that I talked to There was 25 exit reports. The reason there wasn't 45 is there's a lot of people that were afraid of retribution. And so is there a way that this can, we can maintain confidentiality? Because I think a lot of people, that's very important. So,
Jill and HR has stated that there is a way of doing it confidential so people can give those report. And you were part of the Turnus thing, Dave, that we went through those things in those reports. So truly, yes, you need to keep it confidential so people feel there's no retribution.
actually, I was the liaison commissioner for the police department, and I think you might want to consider changing it from you being the liaison to somebody else. That would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Well, good recommendations that are not always taken. Any other comment, Garrick?
To your point, Dave, I as part of this, I'm going to demand that there be a survey that is given to every officer early on and then towards the end of this process so that we can measure. Measurably, it's all about metrics. If you can't measure, how do you measure mental health? You know what I mean? You have to ask them the questions at one point in time and then later on. And it has to be confidential or they're not going to be honest, right? So I echo that, and that's exactly one of the things that has to happen with this review.
Roll call vote, please.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
No.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. We have applications for property tax exemptions. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Is there a second? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Appointment to the Renaissance Zone Authority. You have my recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any, all those, excuse me, roll call vote?
Strand?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. There was a question on COVID-19. Commissioner Strand was a bit concerned about what's going on. He's been around the nation as well, and we're having a spike of the virus right now. But we did look into, are there some opportunities for some people to get either masks or free kits? And Desi is going to explain that right now.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Just wanted to give you a couple of resources that people can utilize community-wide. There is a website if you would go to that is covidtests.gov. It's a very easy website to use. You can request free home tests, so you get 4 per address, and those will be mailed out from the U.S. Postal Service. So really an easy thing to use. So I would recommend that everybody uses that so they have tests on hand. You know, we do have our testing storefront, which has been very, very busy lately, which is a great option for Monday through Friday. We don't have any weekend openings at this time. We may in the future, but Moorhead has a site that's open on Sundays. But our we've been doing about 2,400 to 4,600 tests per day at our storefront, and our positivity has been about 24 to 26% lately, so quite high. That's doubled from December. The other program that's coming out is the N95s that are coming from the federal government. I don't know as much about this. They will be coming through retail pharmacies and the pharmacies that are on the federal registry, and then the community health center. So Family Healthcare is our community health center in our area. They have made applications for these masks, but they have not heard anything about arrival yet. They should be up and running. I think the projected is early February. We do at Fargo Cass Public Health have a small supply of KN95s for adults. And then we also have some for smaller children, probably like age 2 to 6. So these are meant for people that can't afford to purchase them on their own. If they would like to stop into the health department main building, they can certainly do that. Other than that, I guess I have the same message that I've had for 3 years going on. Just that our cases are, you know, they're high, and Omicron cases are everywhere. I would encourage all of you to get your vaccines if you are due. I know that the booster rates in our area are quite low. Yes, we are having some breakthrough cases with this, but the amount of hospitalizations and serious outcomes and death are significantly reduced with vaccine. Also, if you can, for the next couple weeks, limit your unnecessary outings and do takeout and do delivery options and stay away from people as much as you can for the next several weeks. Wear that well-fitted mask in public. Stay home if you're sick, and certainly if you have symptoms of illness that are COVID potentials, please go and get tested.
Commissioner Strand, did you have any other questions of her?
No, but thank you, Desi, very much. And someday we'll have a good end to all of this, and you can tell us the good news after 25 years, maybe. But thank you for
I
your
certainly
good
hope
work.
that.
John, are you saying it's going to take 25 years to get rid of this virus, or?
Well, I don't know if it's endemic or pandemic, but I want to hand it to our public health department and all of our public health delivery people and all the heroes out there on the front lines that are doing so much on a daily basis and putting themselves out there. And we don't always know that, what they're going through, even in our schools and all the people trying to just stay staffed. So again, Desi, keep your batteries charged, stay well, take care of your people, and thank you.
Thank you, Desi.
Appreciate that.
Motion
Thank
to
you.
adjourn?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we're adjourned.